and welcome. In this video series we cover the topic of wind turbine acceptance. At this point we would like to thank our student Tomika Grögler, who carried out extensive research on this topic as part of his bachelor thesis. And we will present the results of various studies on the subject here. To this end, we will address the following points in this video series. First of all, we will clarify the question of why broad acceptance of wind power among the population is important. Then we discuss what acceptance actually means. We consider the characteristics of acceptance in the context of wind turbines and the local acceptance of wind turbines. In addition, we deal with the willingness to demonstrate, we take a closer look at the supporters and opponents, and we present measures to increase local acceptance. So why is acceptance for wind energy so important? To answer that, I would like to present the results of a study by Fraunhofer ISE. In this study, the goal is to reduce energy-related emissions by 65% by 2030 and by 100% by 2050. To achieve this, significantly more electricity from renewable energies must be used, either directly or indirectly. And in order to be able to achieve this, according to this study, wind turbines with an output of 132 to 145 gigawatt must be installed in 2030 and 240 to 300 gigawatt in 2050. For comparison, the installed capacity of wind turbines in Germany at the end of 2020 was just under 55 gigawatt. So there is still a lot missing to achieve climate neutrality. This slide shows how much wind energy capacity has been installed per year since 2015. In 2017, there was a maximum of just over 4 gigawatt, after which expansion collapsed. In 2019, less than 1 gigawatt of wind power was installed. On the right, you can see the values of 8 gigawatt from the study by Fraunhofer ISE in green. The capacity has to be installed annually until 2030 in order to achieve the target value. And a value of almost 7 gigawatt is shown in orange, which according to the EEG 2021 scenario is aimed for annually until 2030. And even under this scenario, significantly more must be expended in order to be climate neutral by 2050. In order to be able to expand so much, the corresponding acceptance in the population must be present. So, what does acceptance actually mean? There is no standard definition for the term acceptance. Colloquially, acceptance means to acknowledge something or to give one's consent. The term acceptance includes both a positive and a negative attitude. And there's also what is known as technical acceptance research. This research covers usage decisions made by people in relation to technological innovations. We specifically talk about the technical acceptance of wind energy in this lecture. And the attitude of people to local wind energy plants is shaped by a technical, social, economic, political, and an ecological context. In the following slides, I would like to address some of the terms used in acceptance research. The term acceptance can be characterized by the so-called dimensions of acceptance. According to these dimensions, acceptance always moves between an acceptance subject, an acceptance object, and the acceptance context. The subject are the people who accept or do not accept something. The object of acceptance is the object that is acceptance, in our case, for example, wind turbines. And the acceptance context describes the circumstances under which something is accepted. The circumstances are not static. A change in the life situation, for example, can have an impact on the context and change the attitude of the subject towards the object. There's also the so-called triangle of social acceptance of renewable energy innovations. Using this triangle, it can be made clear that acceptance can take place on different levels. the socio-political level, market acceptance, and local acceptance. The level of socio-political acceptance describes the acceptance of society as a whole and the political actors towards the object of acceptance. The market acceptance level includes the acceptance of a technology in the market. Whether a technology is accepted in the market is determined by the level of use by the consumers. Local acceptance is shaped by the trust that the locally affected society feels towards an object of acceptance. And decisive factors for the feeling of trust in local society are attributable to fair distribution and procedural justice. On this slide we have transferred the triangle of social acceptance to wind energy, which allows us to differentiate the acceptance in relation to wind energy. In the case of socio-political acceptance, the object would be wind energy and the subject would be the public or political decision makers. In the case of local acceptance, the object is the local wind turbine and the subject is, for example, residents, conservationists or local politicians. The object of acceptance for market acceptance would be, for example, the produced green electricity, and the subject in this case can be investors, property owners or electricity consumers. In a specific scenario in which a locally affected person speaks out positively in favor of the nationwide expansion of wind energy plants and at the same time positions itself against a local plant, this model of the levels of acceptance allows contradictions of reality to be mapped. Another model for acceptance are the so-called dimensions of acceptance according to Schweitzer Ries. These dimensions differentiate between an action component and an evaluation component, whereby the evaluation can be positive or negative and the action passively tolerating or actively acting. The 4 quadrants shown here are valid for wind energy. At the top right, the supporters of wind energy projects are shown. This is the group of people who have a positive attitude towards wind energy and who are actively committed to the expansion of local wind energy projects, thus who take active action in relation to wind power. At the top left is the advocacy of wind power project. This is the group of people who have a positive attitude towards wind energy projects but do not take any action, thus behave passively. At the bottom left is the rejection of wind energy plants. This group of people has a passive but tolerating attitude towards wind energy projects. This includes the part of the population who have a skeptical attitude towards wind energy projects, but no active action is taken on this criticism. And the resistance to wind energy project is shown at the bottom right. This group of people has a negative attitude towards wind energy projects, which is expressed in active resistance to local projects. A person's affiliation to one of these 4 quadrants can change over time, for example during the planning, approval and construction phase of a wind turbine. As a result, it can be the case, for example, that positively minded individuals develop concerns after a local wind energy project becomes known and then tend to show a passive aversion to wind energy project. This process of forming an opinion about the various phases in the implementation of a wind energy project can also run in all directions. And in the next video we then look at the results of surveys on the public acceptance of wind energy. Thank you very much.